What's up? Sorry, a little technical difficulty. What's up, team? Welcome to the Huddle, or your weekly playbook where we not only strategize on playing the game, but how to change it from mastering the fundamentals to distinguishing yourself in the marketplace. We're here for the installer to give you a voice and make sure you're equipped with everything you need. Let's band together and forge a new legacy in flooring. This is where you belong. Welcome to the team. What's up, fellas?
How's it going?
What's going on, brother?
It is going excellent. For the audience out there, I'm Paul Stewart. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Carrera and the president at Stuart and Associates Commercial Flooring. With me, as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez, a preferred flooring out of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
What's going on,
And
guys?
so today we are addressing labor shortage. We could do a topic on this every week, probably.
Every single
Um,
week.
it's
We
always seems to be the topic, but we are. I think we tackle this. 2 or 3 times a year. We tackle this and get ideas flowing and discuss not only what are the problems, but what are some solutions. So I'm going to kick it off with a couple of things. Go Carrera has created a product called the Jumpstart, and it's a job board. What Jumpstart's intended to do is be an outlet, a conduit for all of the training entities, be it CFI, AFT, NTCA, FCEF, all of these, to give them a way to board their students onto our site and then provide access to that site and interviews and all this interactive kind of thing so that when new people come in, that the new people are out in front of the people who are going to hire them. So we know that most of our industry, the installation is done by subcontractors or subcontract, third party, independent, whatever you want to call them. That demographic is a independent contractor, right? They're not employees. That means that we need to give them access to hire these people, these new students, the new blood in the industry. So I say all that to say that I believe one of the greatest failures in our industry right now is placement. There's a lot of activity going on the recruitment front, but then when they get out of the 2 week course or the 5 week course or the 10 week course or whatever, or out of a some type of an entry level course, they're not getting placed. Their companies are still um, looking at Craigslist or running ads on Craigslist or things like this to find guys. I hear installers all the time talk about Craigslist. Well, Craigslist is dead when it comes to this. At the end of the day, it provides you with nothing about the person or provides you no background, and that's what Jumpstart is um, designed to do. Give you some background on the student and allow you to hire them, schedule interviews, and everything right off at the site. So that is a solution that we've been talking about for a while, and to me it is the it's filling this huge gap in placement. So that was a really long-winded way of asking you guys when somebody where do you guys look for new talent first off, and secondly, what do you think from a placement standpoint would be important, and what other holes do you see? Because recruitment's out there as well. I mean, there is some efforts going on in recruitment, but it's probably not near enough to what the industry needs.
Um, so I'll go ahead and start. As far as looking for new talent, you kind of we got a small circle, right? So we look within the circle. If we're going back to when, um, prior to us meeting you, Paul, there really wasn't any other avenues for us to go besides looking on a Craigslist or at some temp services that could potentially have a construction um, department in there. But um, word of mouth, friends and family, uh, you know, kids of so and so, kids of that's where the bucket we've been pulling from has been is one of those things. I think is a comfort thing, right? Like we trust what people are telling us, and we have to trust that they're referring good people to us that want to grow and
So referrals, friends and family, and referrals and
yeah,
Craigslist.
yeah. It has it worked out? Yes and no. Yes, it's worked out. Some of them
I
longer than others, some of them shorter than others. Um, however, I do tell friends and family that if they want to remain in the same, or they want to keep the relationship as it is now, then they shouldn't come and work
That's
because
great. Great
that,
advice.
that is that's one of those things where we can separate work and friendship, work and family, but sometimes they cannot. But we've had a lot
Yeah,
more practice.
yeah, you better get good at it pretty quick, huh? Uh,
Yeah.
we've we've hired family. I've not had much luck. Uh, Friends, a little better, but not great. I have found that once you hire a friend, your relationship will change. So wouldn't it be great though to have the a spot where you can go and just look for guys that have said, "Hey, I want to be in flooring. I've taken the first level of training." That you can at least tell them to grab, a stair tool, or hey, grab that
Yeah.
kicker, or mix that grout, mix that thin set, and understand that, if it's a Portland grout, you got to let it slake for, 5 or 10 minutes and then remix it, or grab my margin trowel, or, you know, can understand the basics. Um, because I just have this intense belief that we are doing really poor in our industry of placing these new students, and that kind of comes from reading on Facebook. A lot of the trainers, like they're, and if you talk to some of them, placement, they get students in and they graduate them, but they don't have the resources to get them placed, or the resources to follow up with them. It's like
Right.
that place.
Even when we had Carlos on here, that was one of his big talking points was we can turn these guys out, right? We can get them signing up and they like doing it. And then once they're done, it's like, where am I supposed to go? It's
Yeah.
there's it's an issue where you guys are trying to have somewhere for them to actually, all right, this is where we're going to put them. You can go here and view everything. But then the other issue we run into is the whole subcontractor mentality where a lot of these guys are like, I'm only going to run as a subcontractor. I'm not going to run it as a business. And that's really not what these programs are set up for. They're not set up to, here, go work for this guy over here on a 1099.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, let's talk about that. I mean, what's a solution there?
Um,
There's
yeah.
two problems, and then what is the solution? Or at least it's my 2 cents
Yeah.
on what the
Opinion on the
problems are.
solution. Opinion on the solution is maybe when people are signing up for classes, maybe there should be classes specific for individuals who are chasing the entrepreneur dream and want to work for themselves versus someone who wants to work hourly. Maybe they should be geared towards a different demographic or that specific demographic. I would say, are you wanting to go out on your own right away? If so, these are the pitfalls. Or are you wanting to take some classes and get some education so that way you can find placement within a company easier? And then obviously the logistic portion of it is relocation issues. Um, are you wanting to stay in your radius, your area, or are you willing to move elsewhere, and are you set up for that?
Yeah, so I think educating them, um, educating them on the, you know, during the training that there's, two ways to go about this: being an employee with somebody and being a subcontractor. But out of these programs, I
Right,
mean, I don't want them to be, maybe this is selfish. I don't think they should be, nor do I want these new people going out trying to start their own thing. To me, that's just as irresponsible as some guy who came to worked for me for 6 months, and goes out and starts his own install company. I had a few
right.
of my helpers do that, and they failed miserably. And it doesn't do any good for the industry. They learn no new skill because they didn't stay with somebody long enough to learn the skills. We've got to get them into some type of employment for some type of time. So if you if you're a company that hires by the hour, or by the day or whatever, but you have employee installers, Jumpstart's designed to give those companies a chance to hire them as employees. The um, subcontract community, we initially had a threshold where you had to be one hammer or more. Uh, to be honest, at the beginning, we had it at two hammers or more, but with only about 12% of the entire network being even close to two hammers, we were like, well, that kind of cuts it off, right? You lower the amount of people that can hire. So we're opening it up to where anybody can hire the guys. Now, I'll be honest, in the future, we want to put
Okay,
that
yeah,
filter requirement back on it. Um, but at the end of the day, you've got to get the guys placed somewhere and have someone training them. Like, them coming out of training and not getting placed at all with a sub or a company, that's certainly not helping. Um, I think we
All
got
it
to just
all it
improve the
does is
placement.
put those funds into training someone and then have them leave the industry right away. And
right.
Rollins says, like, one of the things that we have to be working on is to get more dealers to buy into the programs. But coming from that standpoint, would it be beneficial for the dealers? Yes, but they can't see that because the only thing that I think they see is, and we've dealt with this locally, is putting bodies on the floor. I don't care. They don't care about the education. It's just how many people can we put on the floor?
Well,
Right.
that leads to another piece. Really, one of the biggest problems, it's like we have to get hit with a sledgehammer in our industry for things to happen. I'm serious.
You are.
That
Like I
here
know it.
here's the point is, a lot of people are not hiring these younger guys because they feel like they're okay. They got their 58-year-old out there working. In another 5 years, this will be like, there'll be no opportunity other than hiring younger new blood.
Hey, Paul, can I?
You, hey, John is hey everybody.
He's
I'm
back.
here.
Hooray, John has
I,
joined
I
our
love,
call. We
would
were
love
gonna
to add to what you're saying there because it is exactly that. Everybody is so complacent right now. And I'm going to talk through my experience with people going through training and then putting them into placement. We all love to talk about the wonderful idea of training all these people. But when it comes to retailers and workrooms and all these places stepping up, we need to do a better job getting them involved in the training from day one and not just saying, here you go, here's some guys to pick from.
Well, there's two things. I think that there's got to be some buy-in to training in general. The and then there has to be a mechanism that allows them to easily view and peruse people that have joined the industry and hire, make offers, like, give some activity with these students. Even if a student comes out and gets two or three job offers and he goes away, that's still a better experience than coming out and not talking to anybody.
Huh.
Like you got to get this connection from training to placement, and that's where Jumpstart comes in. And we are doubling down as a note to the industry. We are doubling and tripling down on Jumpstart. We are going to make it awesome. We are pointing nearly every resource we have at Go Carrera at this piece of the problem is placement, to have a very dynamic way of a company or an installer to get on, put in your zip code, what discipline you do that you're looking for, like I'm a carpet and resilient guy or whatever, or I'm a tile guy, and then view students. Then you get on and you can view the students within that zip code, that area, and make offers, like set up interviews with them right then. Look at their background. What training did they go to? Where are they from? And then jump on an interview with them. It's a hell of a lot better than what we're doing right now, and that can only improve. Now, I also believe that the complacency and meaning that people not hiring the guys, I'm fearful that I throw all my resources at this and they're still not going to get hired, to be honest with you. And that's that complacency piece that you were talking about. I mean, that's a real risk I'm taking.
I mean,
that
we've been contacted, a few times, and it's like, hey, this person is really interested in installing. This is what they want to install. Can you guys, bring them over there? It's they just graduated. They went through this program. They don't have any money right now. And then you'd have to pay for them to get there. You'd have to pay for them for a place to live. You'd have to cart them around everywhere. And it's like, it's just the way that our industry is, we're not set up like that to be able to just,
well, a lot of people coming in, let's face it, when a lot of people are coming in and they're well into their 20s or 30s and they're going through this training, they're there because they really do need that helping hand. They need that financial stability in their life. And there's very few people that are really set up, or few businesses that are going to be set up to handle that. Because you're not talking tens of thousands of dollars. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on each individual to really get somebody to go. And that, I see this as a big hiccup down the road. We can pump out all these people, but if we're pumping out all these people and it's still requiring such a huge investment on the other end, how do we make that more appealing to be like, okay, I'm willing to drop, or spend this amount of money?
Well, this is where part of the problem is geography, right? Where's most of the trainings happening, right? Where's most of we all know, like if you're in, there's the trainings are siloed around. Part of that's because the trainers, the CFI, AFTs, NTCAs, they go by where they get demand. For example, the NTCA, they have a crap ton of training on the East Coast, Philly, like crap tons. They come to Kansas once every, I don't know. They can correct me on here if I'm wrong, but once every 6 months, once every year, maybe they're here. Have you guys,
all over the world?
You know what I mean? So if we had a way to understand where the demand is, where the people will hire them, and that could be a mechanism of Jumpstart too, is like put in your zip code where you want people, and if enough of those requests come in, then you could appeal to a training entity. Hey man, you need to do a carpet training in Grand Rapids. There's been 15 inquiries for new installers in that area. Or hey, NTCA and CTEF, you need to do a course, your 2-week training course, or maybe it's 1-week training course and your CTI certification in Grand Rapids, because a lot of inquiries been coming in that area. We just need to tie all the pieces together somehow. That's this whole launch of working with Jumpstart, and to go through that. look what Kendall says. A lot of it right now, when it comes to hiring these young people these days, are they want to go to the top dollar knowing nothing and still need to be trained. And a lot of times, unfortunately, they're not always reliable to show up for work. That is 100% true. It gets better though if they
Yeah.
did go through a training. That is
So
somewhat of a
I want
fact.
to add. I want to add to that. Can you guys hear me? Okay, a little bit better on the mic now.
I think you should
Yeah,
still
you're
turn
a
your
little
gain up a little
echoey.
bit.
You're a little echoey, but you're good.
All right.
Essentially, just super quick, it's like the companies are worried about the now, the today. We've got to get our industry looking at this problem. Everybody talks about it, but they got to look out a little bit. Go ahead, Jose. Sorry about that.
So I was going to add to what Kendall said, and a lot of the dollar amounts that are driving the people who are, and whether they're entry level or got a little bit of experience, is cost of living, right? So cost of living has dictated that people don't necessarily want more money for less knowledge. It's just that they need more money for less knowledge, right? And the fact that that's still an issue in our industry also exposes the fact that we are not in charge of our pricing as much as we think, right? The market is dictating that by flooding it with I'm not trying to speak badly about anything, but we're training a lot of people with no placement. So a lot of these people with no placement are trying to, dip and dive and dabble, and they are actually creating an issue where our industry is valued less because of the failure rate is higher because people are just diving in without really knowing. And that goes back to the issue that we're talking about is all these training entities and all these programs for all these new people for entry level. Are we going about this wrong? Are we treating this like a combine and only the ones that are performing at peak performance or learn at a higher capacity, those are the ones who are getting verbally drafted to all these other companies and getting these recommendations? The other guys are out there to fend for themselves, and that's what's causing the market to do what it's doing.
I don't think anybody's getting. It doesn't seem to me that anybody's getting like truly promoted or placed. The best way that I've seen it happen is when a company needs training and they pull all their guys in and they hire one of the training entities to come train all their entire company or something like that. But that's the most successful way because those people are already placed where the training lands. Yeah, that's where the training lands the best. So if you have a new 2-week guy, they come out of that training better than what they did what they were beforehand.
Jose, you said it right. So somebody that for whatever reason they find out about training for floor covering, they put themselves through the training, they take the time to do it, more than likely cannot go to work for less than they're going to make at a gas station because they're looking for something better in their life. So they probably already have the car payment, maybe some kids, maybe a house. They've got all that. They're not going to be able to start off at such a low level, and they're just going to fizzle out. Where maybe that vetting process needs to happen before you even come into that training. Or are you able to stay? Are you able to stay here? We'll show you the pathway to get to where you need to, but you're not going to be able to. Realistically, you're not going to be making that living wage right away.
And I think that's one of the issues that I've always had with like the FCEF, right? It's because in all their like marketing documentation, it's always you can make X amount per year. You can make $150,000 a year your first year and be your own boss. And they market it like it's out of the gate. You're going to be making this much money. And
in fairness, I would say they don't actually say in the first year, I don't think, but they certainly throw those big numbers around, and your first assumption, these young
that's
kids
what I'm going to be making.
They're making
right, and then when they go through these trainings, and then you talk to them, and you're like, yeah, I can offer you this X amount per hour, and they're like, where's this money coming from? They're talking about I'm making $100,000 a year.
Yeah, that's where like there's no stair stepping. I think I've told you guys, I know I've told Daniel and Jose about the vision for Jumpstart in a big way, is meaning a placement, but also more like a digital apprenticeship where whoever hires them, this would be my dream. But getting the industry to move behind a vision is like very tough. But my dream would be that they go onto the job board. Whoever hires them has to be, say, 1.5 hammers or higher on in the Go Career network. And if you check that box, you can hire off of Jumpstart, but you can also then fill out some easy forms and get the first 5 to 8 weeks of that person's pay covered by an industry grant. And
Right.
therefore you're taking a risk on someone new. You have to do payroll reporting right through the app, which we got this designed already. It's just getting the money to push that initiative through has to have industry support. But essentially, anybody can be a Go Career member. It's free. And so then all you got to do is get your hammer rating. Once you get your hammer rating, if you're a hammer and a half or higher, you get to use the job board all you want. So you have the cream of the crop. And then once you've done that, you can even apply to get this guy's uh, first 8 weeks of wages covered. And you just have to do a payroll report and a skill report every single week. That would be worth it, right? Who would not do that? What's your thoughts on that idea, John? That's the big
Oh,
idea of Jumpstart long
I'm
term.
gonna be the dream killer here, man. You lost me. That's just a lot of work. but I love the
Okay, let me find out, make sure that I didn't just word salad you to death, and that to, you as John,
yes.
you're a highly hammer rated guy. You join Go Carrera. You're over 2 hammers. You go to Jumpstart, Go Carrera dash Jumpstart. You put in your zip code. You find a guy. You hire him. You then just click a button that says apply for wage supplementation. That goes to the grant people. And yes, this is complicated. It's a complicated problem, but that goes to the industry. If the industry has put aside some money to cover for a digital apprenticeship, it's no different than what an apprenticeship it's the same way an apprenticeship happens, just digitally. So you went and hired Daniel, and you're paying Daniel $18 an hour or $15 an hour, and you want to get his wages covered for the next 8 weeks. So you're not worried how much production this guy's getting. You can truly worry about the next 8 weeks being on job training. And you have a 2-page form on your phone that you fill out about Daniel. Daniel, how many hours did he work? How much was he paid? Boom, 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 boom. What new skills did Daniel learn this week? Boom, boom, boom. Is that not worth the $680 you're going to pay him that week if you could get that supplemented? And that is a digital apprenticeship.
I am all for that stuff. I really am. But again, you're talking about money that it's either granted or we're not. I mean, I heard you say something about the flooring industry has money set aside to.
No.
That's a
I'm
hypothetical.
saying they would have to. This is a big vision. This is not something that could be.
I'm sorry. I thought this was
Yeah.
already something that was out there. Yes.
No,
yes.
we have the idea frameworked out at Go Carrera. Like if this could happen, this is a way you could take a new guy, place him with someone who needs him, whether it's a sub or an employee or a company, and then that sub or company could get their first 8 weeks of wages supplemented so that the new guy could be truly on the job trained for like another 8 weeks intensely. So yeah, anyway, it's a big idea. It's not
The state of Iowa does that with their apprenticeship with the plumbers, the electricians. You hire these guys, you just have to have. It's a wonderful program. I mean, I think I heard of someone getting like 25 grand not too terribly long ago because
I think it's Philadelphia does the same thing, or
yeah.
Ohio and Philadelphia. Yeah. Yes.
So
And
those
they
are,
supplement your guys so that you can actually train them and they get through that
yeah.
initial 8 weeks of time frame where you don't need to worry, is Daniel producing enough on a day-to-day basis to cover the $15 an hour you're paying him. All you care about at that point is getting him up to speed. So at the 8 weeks when your supplementation's over, that he is making you money.
So getting to that, that's where it needs to get, right? We need to get dealers and retailers and workrooms behind this, because essentially they're the ones that are going to have to fill this out. They're going to have to employ these people, and they're going to have to do the legwork for these individuals throughout that whole process to make that work.
Yeah, it's going to take, it would take work, and you'd have to have the industry put aside some money to pay for. I mean, who's going to pay for it other than the industry that needs it the most?
I honestly think right now, you just need to look into your states, but a lot of state with apprentice programs, if you have apprentice, and this would be a great question for Jim and Kay with FCEF, but their apprentice programs, if you follow through with them, they do qualify.
Oh no,
we lost him.
There goes John.
Excuse me. You qualify for
he must have got a phone call.
These types of fundings. As far as money wise goes, but it's there.
Yeah, there's a there's certainly systems out. There's systems out there or ways of doing things that are out there, just not for our industry. And it's going to take some work. It would take some work on the whoever's hiring them side to fill out the documents properly, and it takes some work on whoever to set up the apprenticeship stuff. But that's a way that you could graduate a guy through the ranks, and then once he's done with that, you could even have him on a digital apprenticeship for 1 year. If you'll report back and fill out all this as the student, as the installer, you fill this, you'll get your apprenticeship license kind of thing. Then if you have an apprenticeship guy or something like that, you would know who you're hiring. These are all just ideas, and that's what this podcast is all about.
This conversation just gave me a really, I don't know, seems like a good idea in my head, right? But since I share too much information freely and give people a lot of great ideas, I'll wait until we're off air to discuss this one.
Sweet.
But I guess so Kendall put on there too, and I wanted to touch base on that. How is this supposed to work with flooring subcontractors though? And I guess that's one of those questions where
that's the whole point.
Well, I think you have to look at it at a different perspective, right? Because even when we were 100% a flooring subcontractor, we still hired employees and paid them as employees. It wasn't just, I'm just going to give you this percentage or
as you should
1099 you. It was, all right, you're going to be working for me. You're going to be working for me. And that's where we need to get in order to have things move forward.
So there you go.
Amen.
So that's where I was going with that is now we're getting into the scenario where there's just a disconnect from owning a job versus owning a business. Right?
That's right. There's
that disconnect. And
these subs hire our employees like you guys did.
Right. And I think that's and I know we've talked about this in some of the conventions and through our travels and our meetings. And I know that, Paul, we talked about, John, you and I probably talked about this when we were in the mastermind group with Kyle, is about the lack of education on how to run a business on the front end and what that requires, right? Because a lot of people who jump into the trade, because the flooring industry isn't regulated like everybody else. You can get a knife, a tape measure, and a van and be like, I'm an installer. Let's go. Pew, pew. Let's go make some dollars, right? But the business aspect, people are just don't understand. They don't understand the benefit that it could present to them. They only see the dollars and cents that it cost them in the initial setup. And we were those people as well. We were afraid, right, of taking a step afraid of learning, afraid of being told that
But
we were
you
doing
but
it
you
wrong.
did. But you did. And
Yes,
there's a lot of people who don't. And those people need to be working for you. They do
and
not need to be subcontractors. Look, I'm gonna all bullshit aside. The worst problems I have at my flooring company is when a subcontractor subs my damn job to another sub and I don't know about it. It is absolutely unallowed here, but I find out they did it. It's too late. There's punch lists. There's problems. Well, no crap. I paid you $1.75 for this huge uh, uh, early learning center on LVT, and you paid somebody 65 cents. What the did you expect? And then
right.
my job looks like shit. It's the sub to a sub to a sub shit that has got to quit. I probably cursed more in that one
No,
sentence
that's
than
fine.
all other
But you're right.
episodes. But it's
And
Paul.
we
Amen.
subs
It's
need
the
to
passion.
hire the hourlies, hire your installers by the hour or by the day rate, something fair that's going to pay them and that you make them better. We're never going to get better if you just hire the lowest cost guy um, and try to sub that work to him. Our industry's plagued with this crap, and it's worse in
Kendall
some
does agree with
areas.
you. Kendall does agree with you. And
I
so
believe I believe unethical is the way to put it. It's unethical. I hired you to do a job based off of your. We use Go Carrera
Yeah.
solely off your Go Carreras, off your hammer rating, and then you sub it to another guy. Unethical for
Right.
sure,
There's
and
definitely other
unproductive.
ways to do it, right? It's sometimes it's, hey, I can't handle this job by myself. Can you come help me out? It's
right.
never just, hey, he's paying me this. Will you do it for this? All right, let's go.
Yeah,
And
if
if
you
you're
want to
partnering
team
up,
up, if you
there
can
you go. Yeah.
partner together, that's a different story. You're still on the job.
If you
You're
know
still
your
the guy
strength,
I
I would
hired.
love, and I know this is kind of changing the topic, but I would love to hear, more success stories because I think that's what's going to turn people's view on subcontractor versus employee. Is I think we need the saturation of success stories of, and I'm going to pick on Matt Garcia because he's got a program he's working with where it's based on production and it's a reward system for his employees. It's not just an
right?
hourly system. And these are things that I think really need to be heavily talked about. They need to be wrote about in magazines. They need to be thrown in people's face because we need to be aware of it. Otherwise, when we hear hourly employee, we get that negative thought that we're picking up, a day labor at Home Depot and paying him crap wages when really what we're meaning is we're trying to set a culture, create a culture, a business, an environment, and where everybody can thrive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got to really worry about like the new blood thriving. How do
Mhm.
you get you you we hired, for example, we have a guy that works here that went through a 2 week course. It was a 2 week CFI course they had here in Wichita. I sent 2 or 3 guys to it. One of them completed it, and we told them, "You complete this 2 week course, we're hiring you as a." And it worked out great. If something that way, but I'm the only company in Kansas that full service. There's the tile company up in St. Mary's that hires hourlies as well, but full service flooring company. I'm the only flooring company in Kansas that hires hourly employees who provides health insurance, vans,
Hmm.
tools, benefits, holiday pay, vacation time, dental insurance. Like, we're the only ones. Our industry is ran by subs. So subs have to start hiring by the hour. We started putting on our work orders just this last week that all work performed on this job has to be by your direct forces because of this subbing to a sub deal.
Uh-huh.
We somehow have to get away from that. If we can get away from that as an industry, then and like I don't know if it's how you do it because this 1099 thing, we look at it as our problem, but this is a multi-industry, multi state. Like it's a plague in multiple industries.
All
across-
skilled labor, all skilled
Yeah.
labor needs are that.
Well,
Yeah.
and even yes, and so either make it to where 1099s, if you are, if the government, I hate government like regulation, but sometimes it's needed, you know, if it was where 1099 can only cannot, like if you had 1099A and 1099B, meaning we sub from our general contractor, so we're in first position, right? So we're going to get a 1099 from our general contractor that they paid us this amount of money on this job on, you know, this year, right? The we one level of 1099 down to 1099B, but there is no 1099C, right?
So you
These
need something to track the dilution of it. So there is no so it can't just keep trickling down that flight of steps.
You could
call it the slinky
literally
effect,
do it 10
right?
down.
The
Yeah.
slinky effect, right? How about it? You know, after A and B, if there is going to be a C, right? Let's not call it C. Let's just call it C.1. In order to have a C.1, you have to have some sort of licensing that states that you have a bracket where you can place people under an employee blanket. Maybe that's something for it. I sat down and talked with some of the powers to be, right? Some of the people who make some of the decisions here in Michigan, and unfortunately, the same answer keeps coming: is that the government doesn't want to invest the money into creating another structured program because it will take a very long time. I get it, but also
Well,
someone
I'm
else
just
had told
saying,
me
man.
someone else had told me that since we as an industry aren't held to the same inspection standards for occupancy, for safety. I mean, some of our stuff is safety. I will add to that, but we don't have to go through the inspection process like the other trades that Rollin had mentioned. Therefore, we are an expendable trade by
We're
that
we're
by
not
that
we're
snapshot.
we're not licensed. And I think we
There's
talked
no
about that
requirement.
before. There's no
Yeah.
license to become a flooring company, and or a flooring installer, and there'll never be a license.
Well,
There's no
in
license, and
California,
there's no
you have to be
inspection.
licensed,
You have to have.
and Arizona
Go
too.
ahead.
And I talked to Kyle about it, and he said it's just a joke. It's just they just want their money. Here goes your license.
That's
Yeah.
the bottom line. I'm talking a
Like a
true
generic
license,
business or
like an
a generic
actual.
builder's
It's just
license.
like Nebraska. It's a business license. It's not a trade license.
That's all it is. Just
The difference is, and the reason you don't need inspections is because we don't have the resulting damage that a plumber has or
Correct.
a
Electrician.
electrician. You know, if
Right.
you wire a house wrong or a building wrong, you can burn the damn thing down. If you plumb a building wrong on the 7th floor, you could have millions of dollars
Yes.
of damage. Whereas if you put a floor in bad on the 7th floor, you're just replacing a floor on the 7th
What
floor.
if you pour self-leveler on the 7th floor and it finds a way down?
I had that happen. Thanks for bringing up a terrible memory.
We've
But
all had that happen, I think.
We've all had that happen, brother.
Well, I had it happen at in a medical facility, and it went down into the peds ICU. So it was really terrible. Bad
School.
experience. Luckily, it was a empty room, or else I would have felt as
Ours
bad as
was
you could feel.
ours was on the 4th floor in an electrical room that went down to every electrical room. And let's just say we were able to get everything cleaned up so it can be repainted without substantial damage.
Yeah. Well,
what
so
about, I kind of wanted to throw this in here on this conversation because there's always this labor shortage. 20 years ago when I started, it was the same thing, and I'm sure Paul, you were prior to that, and Daniel and Jose, you started before that too. It was always talked about. There's such a problem with it, and I've heard a lot of everybody's got there's a million great ideas, but it's a lot of it's just getting started doing. And me, I live in the middle of nowhere, so and I truly mean that. I had to drive to get on some Wi-Fi so I could jump on this call. The cell service is that bad, but I think we overthink how to go about even getting started about this. And I think we as installers, it's just time for us to step up and let our voices be heard everywhere, that this is a career we chose to do. And it's getting in front of people and talking about it. You know, it's not relying on the quote unquote industry to talk about it at a convention and make a big speech about it. And boy, we all feel good about it, but it's actually acting on it and actually doing something about it. Everybody's situation is different.
What is that to you, John? You have an audience right now. This will be
Yeah.
seen by a couple of thousand, if not more people. You're being watched by an audience right now, and you'll be seen by at least a couple thousand more. So what are some of the, let's just talk. What
Yeah.
are some of the best ideas out there? I don't care what they are, who they're from. What are some of the best ideas out there to solve the labor shortage?
Yeah. So if you think,
And just one more caveat. I need to put Daniel and Jose's caveat to this: qualified labor, because they've said it a bunch of times. I don't know that we have a labor shortage. We have a quality labor shortage. So what are some ideas?
like, so I'm going to use one. I honestly think what we need to do is, and I know you guys have talked about it, but the high schools, we need to be pounding. Everybody needs to be pounding on their high school door to get these young men and women before they go and decide to go be electricians, be plumbers, be a carpenter. There's a lot of talent in these schools, but they have no clue this is even a career. And for those of us that have been around for, a year or two, we hear this a lot. Oh yeah, going to the schools. But you're not reading about it. You're not reading about, state after state, county after county. Oh yeah, these schools are opening up. They're putting a flooring program in. I would love to see, next time I log on to Facebook, 20 posts, 30 posts, 40 posts about an installer that just randomly is like, hey, you know what? Today I called our high school, talked to the guidance counselor. I'm going to go in, talk to some kids about floor covering.
So,
and you're right. And
reaching out to high schools as a, like, installers and as flooring companies. Here's just, I'm going to throw one bone in that. Until we solve the or at least we have to address the problem we just got through talking about, because if Joe Schmo, who has been doing flooring for 5 years, never got any formal training, worked for a guy for 6 months, went out on his own, has no idea of what he's doing wrong, goes and does this, there's two things. If you don't have your business set up, that guidance counselor does not want that kid going to work for you. They're looking to put their kids in the best scenario where they can actually get hired by somebody who's going to treat them well, right? So that's a great way to go about it. Jim Aaron here says, John is a leader in the industry. He's volunteering his own time to visit high schools in his area. He is a model I wish more would follow.
Man,
so,
just big.
So
yeah,
I do think
you're doing it, John. You are putting your money where your mouth
but
is.
But it's
right?
not. I don't. We're overthinking this. Do I believe the Joe Schmo that doesn't know what he's doing is going to be knocking on the door at the high school? No, he's throwing back a 6-pack, lighting up another cigarette, and he's on his way. That doesn't. That.
You're talking to a different person.
There is the guy watching the thousands of people that are going to be watching this are not Joe Schmoes. I can guarantee it. The turds in the flooring industry are not taking time out of their day to learn more. So the thousands of you that are watching this that do care, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? When you want to talk about what you do, we all think that, oh, what if I don't seal my seam, or what if I bring in the wrong tapping block? Nobody else knows. Nobody else cares. You just have to expose them to this and create that atmosphere in which the learning can grow. If it's going to grow, they have to get excited about it. They have to see excited people about it up there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna point this out. I've been to a couple job fairs. I had gals that were going to be nurses. I had guys that were going to school for anything other than a trade, but they were putting seams together because of the excitement we had at our booth. You know, when kids walk into these trade shows, you know, and the guy with his fancy toolbox over here, and he's not talking, he's not engaging, that ain't going to show any interest. And you know, it's a whole different way we have to go about this. They have to know it's even there.
How do we duplicate that? So it's like,
Very good question.
right, we go to the local high schools, talk to the guidance counselor, right? Say, hey, I want to come in here and I just want to expose the students to a whole industry that they may not know about in the skilled trades, and there's enormous opportunity there. Then the next step is, surely they're going to have some career fairs, and you try to get into the career fair, and then you set up a booth and make it hands-on. Is that what I heard? Like kind of something
That's
like that?
Well, that's exactly what we did this year. We were fortunate enough to be invited and participate in a career day at um, the local elementary, and we didn't know what we were doing. I'll be honest. We did. We put
Yeah,
up
next time we're
some,
bringing candy. That's what I know.
yeah, that's we did learn that. You know, we brought some hands on for the kiddos to get their hands on, right? Some LVT interlocking plank,
yeah.
and we had some kids that loved it. We had some kids that only wanted a pencil. We we had some kids that asked a lot of questions, you know, and they had no idea until that day. They had no idea, and you know, I think it was a shot in the dark for us, but I think that the young kids were very responsive, and they understood. There was more understanding that there was more out there than, you know, obviously fireman, policeman, all the people that are normally, you know, nurses that are normally at these younger school functions. But it was refreshing to see how interested they actually were. Right, they're hands on. Like, at what age do we have to intercept the kids to where they lose interest in working with their hands and building with their hands? Because all children are creative to some extent, right? And they lose interest in that creativity. And
Well,
um,
that's probably the next point. Once you've created the awareness, what's the next step? Now you got some awareness. We got to get them
Mm-hmm.
into, like, we need. That's why I want to make sure CFI doesn't, you know, just expands training as much as we can do. Uh, any any word I have with CFI at all is expand the training, make it as
I'm with
what
you.
if there was a
Oh,
sponsorship after the awareness, John, or something where you get 4 or 5 students? There has to be some way for the training entities to pay their bills. So you get the some awareness, 3 or 4 students want to go in, you get them sponsored somehow into a CFI 5-week course that they come out and they at least know how to put a piece of rug on the floor. Uh, Probably shouldn't be doing it by themselves at that point, but you get what I'm saying.
oh yeah. That's ideally what you want. You know, look. You look at you know, and this is, you were talking about the hypothetical wishful thinking. My wishful thinking is Shaw and Mohawk and engineered floors and these big mills. They all of a sudden see this, and they want you know they want the Shaw Excellence Academy of floor installation. You know, they want this out there. They want, you know, some centers throughout the country. But until you know, guys like us are leaving high school or whatever it is, and wanting to do this right away, it's going to be hard to get all those other people really excited about it, uh, to throw money, I guess, at it.
right, and hey, I just want to add this to it too is manufacturers, big dogs, you people out there who are listening, you know, this is us from the installation side and the retail side saying that we need to be better as an industry, right? But however, you know, we're all small business owners here, or business owners, period, that are discussing this, and we're all proprietors of, or we were at one point. But it is hard to pass on knowledge and to pass on excitement for a trade that you know, that we know, and you manufacturers know that someone can make a living on without worrying about, are we going to lose what we've built, or how do we subsidize our income while we're volunteering our time. So just putting that out there, you guys, like, John sacrifices a lot of his free time, right? Now it's not just free time, but it's also time that he could be
There's a lot,
spending generating
there's a
revenue
lot,
for
there's
his
a lot of
business
people that
and his
do.
home.
There's a lot of
Right.
people that
And a lot of people do that. Everything that we do, and from a volunteer perspective, is just that. And also, Brian had put on there, unfortunately, not all people want to hear or so to your way, the right way, but the nobody ever wants to hear that they're doing it wrong, is what it is, right? Like that stubbornness of being set in your ways, so to speak. But you're right. Nobody wants to hear they've been doing it wrong for years. However, I heard it, I learned it, I accepted it, I moved on, I got better because of it. So I guess the people who don't want to hear it are the ones that we need to push out. They don't want to continue their education. Are the
Well,
ones
I
that are
think a lot
driving
of
their market down.
isn't a lot of that driven because that it seems a little bit biased to the fact that you hire somebody who has a little bit of experience. You know, that guy that you hire that I've been doing it this way for 10 years or whatever. That guy, that's not the guy you got to go after. You got to go after the young guy. And I do got to state for CFI, I applaud Jim brought this up as well, but the local chapters are starting to like
Gain
gain,
momentum.
and
Yeah.
Roland is huge in that, and just kudos to that whole thing, because the local chapters are where I think some creative excitement can be made, and then those local chapters go out to the high schools. That's how I could see it being
Oh yeah.
duplicatable, is through the local chapters. And the guys, like you said, John, the chuck in the truck is not even going to that local chapter. He's out
Chuck in the
trying to
truck.
get the next Angie's List person
Right.
to
He's just
talk
trying to go
into
kick in a couple of
buying.
an apartments today so that way he can get his case of beer and then do the same thing tomorrow.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
where working for a beer versus a career is, like, that's two separate walks of
Ooh.
life.
Uh-oh, you just struck a fancy with John.
and that's
Stop that.
that's the
Jose, write that down. Put that in your book.
my book of
Work
what
towards
did you
a
call
career,
it?
not a beer. That's a good one.
Joseisms.
Yeah.
It's just trying to cipher the difference between those two types of individuals is very hard, right? And not only just, for us, for the consumer, for a retailer, and whether they're hiring hourly or subcontractors, it's hard to find that divide. You have to learn the hard way, because we don't have a proper vetting process that is
Well,
specific to regions or states.
that's the thing right there.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be some proper vetting. A B, we've got to get the newer guys into placement. Like getting a guy that's been around a while, never really, did apartments. I hate to like stereotype somebody, because this is literally someone out there, but they do a little bit here, a little bit there. And 10 years later, they're claiming they're the best in the world, and they've never had any proper training. They've never really turned it into a career, doubled down on their craft, any of the stuff we talk about. You've got to get them when they're still going to listen.
Yeah.
I joined the industry when, man, maybe tire stores are a good recruitment spot, because I got really sick of having dirty hands. And that's the whole reason I got paid 50 cents more an hour to go be a carpet helper. And the work was cleaner. I would rather be on a construction site than um, out in the cold changing tires. So that's,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I didn't knew nothing. so I couldn't say, like, I was all ears. I wanted to hear how this was all done. I wanted to get good. Nate says I started in the apartments. I'm not shitting on everybody who started in apartments. We've all laid apartments, okay?
We all
That's
got to
not
start somewhere.
Get back to the
no,
apartments,
Yeah.
Nate.
yeah,
Stay in the apartment.
we've all done apartments. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that once we get guys into the fold and we're able to somehow make sure they get with good people eventually, and make sure that once they're with good people that they're able to advance their career. How we do that and how we track that's happening, that's what your Mohawks, your Shaws, your EF contracts, that's what they want. They are giving money to the FCEF, for example. And Jim has done a great job over at FCF, but they have budget constraints and all this, and that speaks to you, John, that we have to
No.
get out and get our uh okay.
Thanks, Roland. Thanks, Roland.
That speaks to what you said, John, that the installers, we got to get out and create the awareness
We
as
do
well.
that. It doesn't cost.
But
I mean,
but
it's
at
not
some
cost.
point we've got to get them trained,
Yeah.
placed, and then somehow advanced, like trained, placed, and advanced into becoming, because not everybody is just self motivated for that. There has to be a systematic way to do it. Not everybody's Daniel and Jose, who loved figuring this stuff out. Eventually they got to the point where they fell in love with learning the best methods and being the best and doing the best installs, and and the notoriety that comes along with that is um, a nice payment as well. You guys are known as being freaking excellent flooring installers, especially when it comes to sheet vinyl and resilient products. You're just known for that. That's a great thing to be known for. But not everybody's that self-motivated. So it's just like when I built this company and we have 30 something employees now at Stuart and Associates. I had to change from a 5-person company where I could tell everybody what to do to putting systems in place that guided everybody on what to do. And to do anything big, you have to have a systematic approach. I cannot run this company, do this podcast, run, go Carrera and do all this if I didn't have great employees with great systems and great processes that allow them to do their job and grow the company, whether I'm sitting here on this call or in the office or not. My people know what to do. As a industry, we have to set up the systems to train, place, advance. We got the train. We have training entities. Go Carrera is committed. This next stint here is fully committed on filling that placement role through Jumpstart. Like, we are going to get that right. But there has to be others. We can't be the only one, to be honest with you. I'd love to be the only one because that means we're just huge and blah, blah.
So we're
there just
lacking
has to be other ways to place and then advance.
Yeah, that's what it is. So we're lacking a solid format, a plan of succession, if you will, right? That's what we're lacking. I know that. So now if we shift over to like the way the union's formatted, they do have a plan, but it doesn't always entail specifically just the flooring industry. They're just required to log training hours, and I don't know the ins and outs, so don't quote me if I'm wrong. But and in order for them to fulfill that, they go to where the work is at because they're part of the union. They can find work. If there's dry in their area, they can go elsewhere and find work so they can have their dues paid. But
it's the GCs call up, and back in the day, I was talking to a general contractor not too long ago about Go Carrera. He's like, yeah, it's just like a digital union. He's like, which is funny because we call it the Digital Brotherhood, not to tick off any unions out there, but he was like, I used to call the union hall and I'd say, I need 2 journeymen. And this was more on the carpentry side of things. But he's like, I need 2 journeymen and 2 apprentices. And they'd come with their card that showed that they're a journeyman, what level of training they've taken. Like, all these things were logged and tracked and advanced. And so, yeah, it's
So we got a pretty long-winded one here from Jim. I'm just going to read it so that way, because it doesn't say the whole thing. Not to open up a can of worms here, but the starting pay for an installer, for a helper, has to increase, guys, in general. We all know that a professional installer can make a very good living after a few years in the industry, but starting wages are constricting us. I can provide several examples where we've been working with workforce development organizations, the employers of the students involved, and they shared with those organizations that starting pay would be $15 an hour, and then all your work up until that point was wasted, and it was all shut down at that point. And that's what we're working against, is things like this, where we are competing in an industry where even a McDonald's is starting at a certain wage and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is where are you placing these guys? Because we're in the industry we're at and how it's set up, where we have to start at these wages because there's not enough money in it otherwise sometimes.
Let me
Like
say, yeah, go ahead.
the we're working, and I mean, we've talked about this offline before, where I'm doing these bids and people are going in at my cost. So how can I pay someone a higher wage when I can't even win some of these jobs? And then what they're doing is they're going with the lowest. They're not even qualified. They're going with the lowest
Well,
amount.
look at the email I just got about one of the jobs. Is sorry, we lost this. We were not low bid. Like that was the follow up.
Well,
Like,
that problem is a whole new podcast. Like we have talked about how that's a terrible, the low bid scenario is a terrible scenario. Like it sucks. But I would say the guy that we hired after the 2 week CFI course, we started well over that $15. A, you have to take the risk. B, the problem isn't just the starting wage. If you can't sell a vision of a career, then yeah, you're being compared to the McDonald's. The problem is they don't have a vision for the career. So just pushing back on Jim a little bit, not like disagreeing with him, but it's not just the starting wage. The guy, we have to advance, show that there's an advancement, that if you could say, stop saying, hey, you make 100 and whatever, or you make that. It's like, hey, after year 3, you can you can be at this. If that's a systematic year, 3 years of a systematic processed 3 years, then you could be, the average wage is 72,000 or whatever. Yeah,
Paul, you said it.
we
You
have to
said
find this vision and define it for them so that they know. Because I can tell you, we have guys that make in the 80s and 90s with full health care and all that, and you add all that up, and it's over 100, well over. And they are employee installers. So yes, you can make a good living and make a good wage, but I don't know how to sell that vision because there's so few companies that hire employee installers. 2 of them on here. I don't know about you, John, necessarily. But
I've got an employee, but he's like apprentice.
yeah. But I know Jose and Daniel hire, do the majority of their work in house. We do a good portion of our work, but we still have subs. We don't hate subs. I love them. That's why Go Careers around. We just need some accountability around them where they have metrics that they have to abide by, and then hiring people and advancing them is somehow we have to invigorate that in the installation community, that the subs need to quit trying to find the easiest way to get the job done and start looking at their installation business as a business and as a career, and hiring guys to advance them so that in 5 years they've got a hell of a good guy that makes good money. They make good money on him. Like, it can work that way.
So, Paul, I want to just jump back, because what you said, I think, is what is one of the most important, if not the most. Pair up one of these students with somebody that gives a damn. You know, you can't take somebody that went from an environment where there's learning, positive attitude, all this great stuff, and now you've got Debbie Downer over here that they got to work with because that vision is gone. It's wiped out. I'll share my story. I moved back when I started floor covering. I moved back in with my parents because I liked what I did. I didn't like my pay because it sucked, but I liked what I did. And I saw a vision because of the people that I was working with. I saw a vision of where I could be in a couple of years. I knew it was going to take a couple of years, but I saw that. Getting that across to someone is very difficult because you might have some age constraint. When I go back and say, if you've got a car payment, a house payment, and you got kids, $15 an hour just ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's where
and
intercepting talent at the right time comes into play.
Absolutely.
Because, you know,
getting them young enough out of the introductory trainings where yes, 15 is what you could get at your Chipotle, but that's all you're going to get at Chipotle. You might get a few inflation style raises to $16 by the time you've been there 3 years. But in 3 years, if you dedicate yourself to this craft, you're going to make substantially more than 15. That's the part that somehow as a industry we have to tag on to this. Hey, you can make a bunch of money, but you also have to, it's like keeping that from being what they expect. And so many of the instant gratification, it was mentioned by a comment earlier that stated that they want all this money right out of the gate, this kind of thing. Well, that part, there's no solving that. You just got to move on to the next guy or the next person. Like if they don't think that if they think they're going to come out of a 6-week course and make 100,000 a year, there's something off there. Like,
there's some delusion going on in that person's life where their value doesn't reflect their knowledge.
Hey, Daniel, why don't you read off Jim's again?
So before he runs, he's going to say this. He's preaching to the choir, right? Because we talk about it all the time. He's been saying it for years. The manufacturers should require their products to be installed by certified installers, or else the product will come with no warranty. It would solve so many problems in the industry, and he'll debate it 10,000% convinced it's one of the best things a manufacturer could do for themselves and the industry at large. Great conversation. And I think that's kind of what
we just talked about that recently.
We've talked about it, and
well, we support the whole freaking idea that manufacturers should have a level of training. What the hurdles there is, what's a certification? By what entity? Who's governing that? We have online certifications.
And
we talked about this at CFI as well,
right?
Yeah, we talked about this at CFI. Like, I remember just a couple of years ago that we were at a convention and this whole thing broke out. And CF, all the installers want this. All of us, all the good guys who went and got certified and are trained. We want this because we want to quit competing with guys who are not. Okay. The problem is it UPACT? Is it AFT? Is it CFI? Is it NTCA? Is it NWFA? And if it's NWFA's only, like, does CFI's hardwood course count? Does their certification count? Does it? And so who are they going to peg as the one that the winner of all that? That's
the problem. Get rid of the word certification and
that's
change
where
the name of it to qualified.
Well, that's why we created the hammer rating.
We're not no longer going with certification. We're going to start calling individuals qualified. If you don't pass this test, you're not qualified instead of certified. And then they can list qualified on their on the spec, and that would change a whole lot. It would require people to actually get the ball rolling, get the processes or the systems in place for the training, for the classification of installers and their talents, alongside with the hammer rating, what you have now. But now you have an industry following and backing it, requiring it, versus just an owner or an architect or a business.
I'm
Um,
obviously biased here, but a 0 to 5
it's-
rating that takes into account all of this is the obviously the easiest answer. Now I know I'm biased because I created Go Carrera and I created the hammer rating, but the hammer rating just takes, it doesn't matter if it's AFT or CF or CFI or whoever did it. Whoever, it's all aggregated into the hammer
yep.
rating. And if the manufacturer just say this is, you must have a hammer rating of XYZ to install our product or else it comes with no warranty. They're not tying to any entity. It costs the installer nothing,
There you
absolutely
go.
zero
Well,
dollars to get a hammer rating and $0 to do so. And the industry, for whatever reason, it's I don't know. I don't know the answer.
no, and
I feel
like
like I know the answer, but I don't know how to get it, the sponge to absorb the water.
right,
The
and like Justin says, because he went through install, right, and the way that they did it, and it's just an additional warranty, right? You have to, if you're trained and you're qualified, you have, yeah, you still have this manufacturer's warranty, but if you use me, this warranty gets extended. Like
That's an
there's
installation warranty they provide. I think it's through Lords of London that it's up to $25,000 or something like that replacement warranty if you use an install certified, a guy that's certified through install. Problem is there, which I love install from the training aspect, but they won't train non-union installers.
I know
Well, I mean, there's a partnership there, right? Like if it doesn't make dollars,
they
it
pay
don't
their
make sense.
dues.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I get it. I do wish if there was an install guy watching this at some point that they would open up their program, charge a non-member fee to do your training or something. I don't know, but install has a hell of a program and turns out some really good installers, honestly. But it is just for unions, and we have a vast geography of the United States that are non-union.
So just to get back on the topic here, right? The installer shortage. So I know that we've kind of extended, we've gone past our
Just a
normal
little.
time
Just a
slot,
little
right?
bit.
But
That's what
um,
happens when you have great
it does.
conversation.
It is too. But so really, I'm just going to summarize my thoughts. We're not really having an installer shortage. We're having a shortage of knowledgeable installers, processes or systems, and a path to get from A to B for people to find success. So really, we're lacking infrastructure in our industry, when some places, union or not, do in fact have that, but most of that is held internally. Now, if we look at the big picture, if there was more requirements right off the bat, then more people would find reasons to be structured to have those pathways, and it would be more weird to not have them than the companies who do have them. So essentially, it goes back to what I said when we were in Georgia: is the race to the bottom starts at the top. If the top doesn't have the requirements, then nobody's going to try to structure anything to follow requirements that aren't policed.
Yeah, it would be um, fantastic if the manufacturers had like I would have never had to do anything with Go Carrera if the manufacturer had a, you must be certified, and we knew what certification meant, and there was some law that prevented someone from creating some hobo style training and calling it a certification, like all the infighting. And it's not just our industry, but we're really bad at that. So, and I
Paul,
appreciate all the
what are your
great
thoughts on?
comments about the hammer rating that Jim and Jorge said. It was a well thought out, very long process to come up with a system that just took all of the information from the trainings and created a rating. Um, at the end of
What if
the
or for just thinking out loud here, I mean, what if you go on Mohawk Shaw and any of these manufacturers, and they've always got find our product, right? Find a retailer, find a place to buy this. What if they just they don't have to say must use certified installer, must use, I like the word qualified. But along that, they also have CFI, NWFA. They list that stuff right there on the site. So not only can you buy your product that you want, but you can make sure you got the right person, to put it in for you. I think that would go a long ways if they just do that.
I am going to say one thing that probably will get me in trouble with some of the manufacturers. I don't think they.
He's got to think about this for a second.
Words, buddy.
I don't think they care about this as much as we want them to, because if their product requires a higher level quality of installer, they're going to sell less product. That's why they have tried to engineer the craftsmanship
for the
out
DIY
of their product. Yes. And
that's what Nate
like
said
you're going to sell
too.
less material if it's harder to install. And so they don't want. I think that's the resistance when I've talked to these manufacturers about using the hammer. I'm like, I'll debate anybody on this planet if you want to come up, tell me about a better system that would give you a picture of the skill and capability of an installer. What we created, if there's a better way, fine. I would love to hear it. But the bottom line is the manufacturers have to adopt it, and I have had meetings, and it's clear to me that the number one concern is selling the product. Not that it's installed correctly or that their product looks great when it's done. It's just getting it out the door.
Right. And then Jim does have this, because there aren't enough installers in the field, so that's hard for them to do. There aren't enough training, or the training organizations don't have the capacity to do everything like right away. But if they come out with a solid date, like, and it cuts off right here, but it says by 1/1/2030, just throwing a date out there, the installer has to be certified or qualified or whatever it's going to be, right? They do this with other things. Just look at like Mapei and how they're doing the CO2 or whatever they have on all their bags, and Interface was doing it with what were they doing it with? But
I don't know, but I agree with that whole concept.
Like the net zero stuff, right? By this date, we're not going to use any more carbon or whatever their goals are. They throw these dates out there all the time, and this is just something that's never thrown out there. Hey, Jorge, we're all just basically winging
it. Well, speaking of winging it, we have wung it about a half hour past time. It's been probably one of the best podcasts of recent times. It's been, I think my daughter is going to shoot us. She's on vacation, and she's like, you guys running the longest podcast while I'm on vacation is fitting. She said it way worse than that, though. I'm sure I'll hear about that when I join them tomorrow or the next day.
Pretty sure we're going to break the internet with this one, though. Like, it's record breaking.
Well, everybody needs to hear it, whether it's the guy who's just starting his install, just got in the industry 2 weeks ago, or the guy who's been in it for 50 years. But that's it. It's just everybody's got to hear it. Nobody ever wants to talk about it. Can't keep sweeping it under the rug, right?
Amen.
No pun intended.
Well, guys, it has been a pleasure. John, I'm glad you were able to join us. I know you had to stop and get some Wi-Fi, and I appreciate that. Daniel and Jose, you guys are awesome, man. It was a great conversation. I want to thank our audience for contributing and commenting. If you guys catch us on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe or a dislike and a comment. Interact with us if you want to get some of this. Help us to continue to spread the message about our industry. Interact with us. That's what the algorithmic overlords want to see. So help us out a little bit there. If you catch us on any of the other platforms, leave a like and a subscribe or whatever. Give us some love. I would say it was pretty cool. We had some major nationwide recruiter repost one of our episodes of the Huddle on LinkedIn. That was pretty freaking cool.
Awesome.
So anyway, keep engaging, guys. Stay true to the craft, and we will see you guys next week.